This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Joining us today is Ben Turney, the CEO of Kavango Resources, following news from the Ditau project. Now, last week, Ben, you put out news regarding a strike extension to the mineralised BIF, that's the banded iron formation that we discussed in a previous interview, and we talked about Dr. Moomin and his theory then, how positive he was feeling about all of that. So what you've actually done, I understand, is you've almost got free exploration because there's another operator in the area who were drilling for diamonds, and you've actually managed to look at some of their results as well and compare them to what you have got, and that's given you the confidence that there's quite a big strike extension here.
Well, absolutely, Mark. And if you look at the announcement we put out a couple of days ago, where we released the initial logging results and we showed some photos of the cores that we reviewed, you can see what an exciting opportunity this is developing into. We've been very, very fortunate here. We've been lucky to have run into this system. This wasn't what we were originally targeting. When we set out to drill Ditau last year, we were looking at the carbonatite model that was Mike Moles' brainchild originally. And obviously that hasn't worked out. But what we did encounter with the way that the drill holes were set up is this banded iron formation. Now, our guys on the ground didn't recognise, and it's taken us a while to get to the point where we really understand the potential of what it is that we've uncovered. But these holes from the overlapping diamond license operator are just, I can't tell you how fortuitous they are, Mark. Because when you're logging and you're sort of doing historic logging, typically you'll be looking at things like exploration holes that might have been drilled in sort of different target styles, different mineralization styles, or water boreholes that obviously are designed for local water purposes. It's very, very rare that a company like ours will get to benefit from free drilling, targeted free drilling into the same target that we have been assessing ourselves. So this really is turning into a wonderful turn of events for us, and it's starting to get quite exciting.
Indeed. So we can see the pictures there on the Kavango Resources Twitter page. So I know we're going to go through in a bit more detail after Easter, so sometime next week we've got some slides to talk about, and we'll go into a bit more detail. But can you just summarise what really we're seeing in these pictures here?
So there are two holes, Mark. There's hole XO77, which is XO81, which is 470 meters to the northwest of our hole DD004. This hole was taken down to about 188 meters. And it was targeting the boundary between the magnetic high and the magnetic low of what we call the I-10 target. So they were testing exactly the same target we were, but they were looking for kimberlites, obviously, which host diamonds. Now, they obviously recognized that they hadn't hit kimberlite, and they stopped the hole at 188 meters. And if you look at the first picture in our RNS, what you'll see is that where they stopped the hole, from our perspective, was a crazy place to stop the hole. They were just getting into what looks like extremely interesting and intensifying mineralization. So we can see exactly the same banded iron formation that we encountered at our 004 hole. But you can also see the accumulation of pyrite, which is quite intense, quite large clasts. And it was, that hole was really starting to get into something very exciting from a metals exploration perspective. But of course, they weren't looking for metals. Weren't looking for metals. We have the licenses, so it's commercially no use to them. So they made technically the right decision in terms of their exploration. But from our exploration's perspective, what this has done is it's opened up the door to, who knows, I mean, maybe even a discovery. I mean, this really is a very, very exciting target area that we have. It's the right size for a potential ore body. We've got evidence of mineralizing processes. Above all, we've got evidence of gold mineralization occurring. And off the back of Hamid Moomin's excellent report for us, this is Kavango's first shot really at a geologically led large scale target. So yeah, we're very excited about it. Meanwhile, to the southwest, hole XO77. That one's been a bit of a surprise, Mark. We weren't aware of it, so it wasn't one that we had found. Where our guys had found XO81 out in the field, they found the concrete caps, so that's how we knew about the existence of those holes. XO77 was shown to us while we were in the core sheds, and I've got to say, like the guys who showed us around, it was the BGI plus some other support. And they were extremely helpful on the day with Brett and the team. And they took us and showed us sort of the other interesting rocks that they hit. This wasn't a target that we had identified previously, so it was something that we hadn't seen. But if you look at the mineralization in those holes, that hole only went down to 144 meters. But again, we can see very, very clear evidence of mineralization, and not quite the same, but similar style to what we see up at the I-10 target. So we've got quite a bit of work to do to investigate that and what that might mean, and does that open up another potential target area. But in terms of the overall regional systemic perspective, things are looking very good.
Excellent. That's good to hear, Ben. Now, have you done any XRF on some of these cores that you've had recently?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the simple answer to that is yes, of course we have. We've had like a number of shareholders asking us to put XRF readings up. Look, we as a company policy, and I said this a lot in the past, we don't publish XRF data on its own anymore. It is just too risky. XRF is great for giving you sort of a quick and dirty analysis from the field. We've obviously performed XRF on both sets of cores and of course our own. What we've seen so far in the XRF, what I can say is it's given us sufficient encouragement that we've sent off quite extensive batches of samples off for assay testing. So what we now need to do is we all need to wait for the assay tests. Obviously, those will hopefully give us, more of an indication about the system's potential and what we'd be looking at, and that will then help guide our future decision making. But we're not going to put the XRF data out in the public domain. Okay.
Well, before we finish, Ben, let's just get a quick catch up on drilling at the KSZ and the KCB. Then, what's the latest been going on here?
Right. Well, look, I'll start with KSZ. So we've obviously got the B conductor, B1 conductor, and B3 and B4. B1 has been drill ready now for a few months. Mm-hmm. Our plan originally was hopefully to have been drilling by now, but we've been a little bit overtaken by events at Ditau. Our decision is really quite simple. Last time that we drilled the KSZ, we took the same rig down to Ditau. We mobilised it immediately and we did a back-to-back campaign. It's our plan to do exactly the same again this time, but what we're considering at the moment is whether we might actually need to go and drill Ditau first. At the moment, the sort of the decision point on Ditau is there's certainly more surveying we'll need to do at Ditau. We've obviously got to do IP surveying, and we've got to look for specific target areas. There's some more CSAMT that we would like to run, and Jeremy's got some ideas around some airborne surveys as well that we'd like to carry out. But what we might do is twin this exploration hole that's just to the north of DD004. So that's what our sort of current decision making process is focused on. We are going to make a decision on this very soon. Pretty much as soon as we get those assay results, that's the point at which we'll be ready to pull the trigger. But we've got everything now is in place. Everything is ready. We've got like a number of drill quotes that are in. We've got the sort of logistics all planned. We're obviously extremely excited about drilling the B conductor. That's the big target that unfortunately we didn't hit last year when we drilled. It's obviously been significantly upgraded with the recent work that Jeremy and the guy we use in Australia have done. So it's a very, very exciting target. But of course, the Ditau potential is also looking great. So I think just a little bit more patience, a couple more weeks. Let's just get the assay results in, and then we'll commit to exactly what the drill plans will be and which order we drill these projects in. Meanwhile, up in the KCB, we're really pushing ahead with full steam with exploration up there. We've obviously, as announced back in February, we've refocused our efforts on the Karakubis licence block up by the Namibian border. Jeremy and Dave Catterall are currently working through the airborne survey data that we flew last year, so we'll hopefully have some results on that very soon. And we've also been watching with interest events immediately to our east with ENRG Elements. They're an Australian listed company who've recently released some exploration updates and the results of their IP surveys that they run over their license block. Now, given the proximity of their ground to ours, we think that information is going to be quite helpful for us in terms of guiding our future exploration. So what we're doing at the moment, Mark, is we're going through sort of, again, the same process that we've done before, gathering all the surface data that we can. We're probably going to fly a little bit more airborne there before we start to identify specific target zones. Based on the number of target zones that ENRG have just put out into the public domain that they have, I can't remember the exact number, but they've got quite a large number of drill-ready looking targets. We're expecting to have a similar accumulation of targets in our ground too. So there's a little bit of work we need to do up at Karakubis to get ourselves up to being drill-ready. But in the meantime, our main drilling focus will be Ditau and KSZ, and then I expect we'll return to drilling in the KCB a little bit later this year.
Well, thank you very much, Ben, for that update, and I look forward to catching up with you next week. We're going into a bit more detail on what the situation is at Ditau and your plans there with some PowerPoint slides next week. But thank you very much for your time today, Ben Turney, CEO of Kavango Resources.
Thanks, Mark. Looking forward to it, and have a happy Easter.
You too. If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.